They say silence has power. But what happens when silence starts to swallow you? When your own voice, the one inside you, starts fading away because the world never cared to listen? This is the story of Noah, a boy who forgot how to speak for himself until silence became the only teacher he had left. Noah was quiet, not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that hides storms. He grew up in a small town where being loud or different was seen as disrespectful. If he had an opinion, he kept it to himself. If he felt hurt, he smiled and said, "It's fine." People liked him for being easygoing, nice, silent. But inside, he was carrying unspoken words that could fill entire books. At school, he had dreams of becoming a writer. He loved stories, especially the ones that made people feel. But every time he'd try to share his writing, he'd hear voices around him say, "Too dramatic, too emotional. Who even cares about this stuff?" So he stopped sharing, stopped writing, stopped believing his voice mattered. Years passed. Noah grew up, finished college, and got a quiet job in a quiet office. Every morning was the same. Wake up, work, go home, sleep, repeat. His life was calm, but inside he was suffocating. It was like he was living on mute while everyone else's life played on full volume. Then one day, his boss called him in. He said, "Noah, you need to speak up more in meetings. You have ideas, but you never say anything." He smiled politely, but inside, he thought, "What's the point? Nobody listens anyway." That night, he sat by his window, watching the city lights fade into the dark sky. And for the first time, he whispered to himself, "When did I stop speaking?" A few days later, he was walking through the park on his way home. It was raining lightly, that kind of gentle rain that feels like it's trying to talk to you. He noticed a small boy sitting alone on a bench, crying softly. Noah walked over and asked, "Hey, are you okay?" The boy looked up and said, "My friends laughed at me because I talk funny." Those words hit him like thunder. He knelt beside him and said, "You know, sometimes people laugh because they don't understand how special your voice is." The boy looked at him, curious. "But my voice sounds weird." Noah smiled gently. "Maybe it sounds different, but different doesn't mean wrong." For a long moment, they both sat in silence, the kind of silence that heals instead of hurts. That night, Noah went home and opened his old notebook, the one filled with his poems, thoughts, and half-written stories. His hands trembled as he read the words he had once been too scared to share. And for the first time in years, he wrote again. Not for others, not for approval, just to hear his own voice again. Weeks passed. Writing became his quiet escape. Until one evening, his company announced an open mic event for employees. "Share your talent," the flyer said. His friends at work joked, "You should read one of your stories, Noah." He laughed it off, but inside, his heart whispered, "Maybe it's time." That night, he stood in front of his mirror, holding a piece of paper. His voice shook as he read his story out loud, about a boy who was afraid to speak until he realized silence was his strength, not his prison. When the day of the event came, Noah almost didn't go. His heart was racing, his palms were sweaty, his fear was screaming. But he remembered that little boy in the rain and the promise he silently made to himself. Never silence your soul again. He stepped onto the small stage. The room fell quiet. His voice cracked at first, but he kept going. He read with emotion, the kind that makes people feel, not just listen. By the time he finished, the room was still silent. But it was a different kind of silence. A silence full of connection, full of hearts that had just been moved. Then, slowly, people started clapping, and then standing. Tears rolled down Noah's face. For the first time in his life, his voice wasn't just heard, it was felt.
After that night, Noah didn't become famous. He didn't suddenly change the world, but he changed his world. He started writing again, speaking up in meetings, expressing his truth, no matter how small or simple. And every time fear tried to pull him back into silence, he'd remember, even a whisper can move mountains when it's honest. Because silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's where dreams go to die. Your voice, your truth, your feelings, they exist for a reason. Don't hide them just to keep others comfortable. Someone out there needs to hear what you have to say, even if it's shaky, even if it's soft, even if you're the only one saying it.
So, if you've been quiet for too long, if you've been holding back your thoughts, your art, your heart, this is your reminder. Speak, write, create, share. Your voice matters. It may not change the whole world, but it will change your world. And maybe, just maybe, someone else's too. Because sometimes the bravest sound in the world is the sound of breaking your own silence. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to share it with someone who's been too quiet lately. Maybe through your voice, they'll find theirs too.